Okay, so on this one, a special deck of cards has 20 cards. 9 are green, 7 are blue, 4 are red. Yeah, no numbers at all. When a card is picked, the color of it is recorded. An experiment consists of first picking a card and then tossing a coin. Interesting. First picking a card and then tossing a coin. How many elements are there in the sample space? Okay, this is a little more tricky. So there's 20 cards, right? So elements in the sample space mean how many different outcomes. That's another way of putting it, probably that's a little more helpful. Different outcomes, like how many different things, outcomes or things, I'll say things can happen. How many different things can happen? Well, there's 20 cards. You might say, well, 20 different things. Yeah, but it's not just the cards. Notice what else you're doing. What else does it say? It says, and then tossing a coin. So there's 20 cards that can happen. You can get any of 20 different cards. And then you can get heads or tails when you flip the coin, right? Are you with me? Is this making sense? If you're thinking about what are all the different things that can happen, well, I could get, let's kind of write them out a little bit. I could get the first card, whatever that is, I don't care, green, blue, whatever. All I care is there's 20 cards. I could get the first card and then flip the coin and get heads. Or I could get the first card and flip the coin and get tails. Or I could get the second card, whatever it is, and flip the coin and get heads. Or I could get the second card and flip the coin and get tails. Or I could get the third card. You get it? For every one of these 20 different cards, I could get with it a coin flip of heads or a coin flip of tails, because the experiment is not just picking a card, it's first picking a card and then tossing the coin. So the overall thing we're doing is picking a card, which is going to be 1 through 20, right? 20 cards, at least for mine, and then flipping a coin, head or tail. So do you see how many total possibilities there's going to be then? There's going to be 40, aren't there? Because there's 20 cards times 2 things that can happen when you flip the coin, right? Each of these 20 cards can go with heads or tails. So that's 20 times 2. That's 40 different things that can happen. We call that elements in the sample space. Different outcomes, different things that can happen, 40. Because there's 20 cards and 2 things that can happen on the coin flip. You see that? 1 with heads, 1 with tails, or 2 with heads or 2 with tails. I mean, the third card with heads and the third card with tails, etc. Now, let A be the event that a red card is picked first, followed by landing a tail on the coin. So what's the chance of that? So they're saying, what's the probability? Let me write it down here for us. What's the probability of getting a red card and a tail on the coin flip? Does that make sense? Red card first, followed by a tail. What's the chance of that? Remember, on the bottom goes the total, and we've already decided that the total for mine is 40. 40 different things can happen. Well, and then the number on the top is the number you want. Okay, well, how many of those are going to be a red card and a tail? Well, how many red cards are there? It says 4 cards are red. There's 4 cards that are red. 9 are green, 7 are blue, 4 are red. 4 red cards. So I could say, you know, whatever, red card number 1 and a head, or a tail, sorry, and a tail, or red card number 2 and a tail, because we want a tail, right? And a tail, at least on mine. Red card number 3 and a tail, or you could get red card number 4 and a tail. So there's 4 different things out of the 40 different things that can happen. 4 of them are a red card and a tail. One of the 4 red cards with a tail. 4 out of 40. Divide that in your calculator, it'll come out 0.10 or just 0.1. And so
I thought you would have to do 4 times 2.
No, because that would be if you wanted head or tail, right? The reason we did the times 2 over here is because I was counting everything that can happen. And if you're counting everything that can happen, then yeah, you can get any card like the 1 with a head or a tail, the 2 with a head or a tail. But this question specifically says red and a tail, just a tail, not a head. So the only ones that would you, that's what you want. You want to get a red followed by a tail on question B. And so that's just red 1 tail, red 2 tail, red 3 tail, red 4 tail. No times 2 because we don't want the head option. They didn't give it. If they had said you get a red card and a head or tail, then yeah, I would have multiplied by 2 because then they would have both been options. But they said, nope, just red and tail is all we want. Good question. Making sense? Other questions I can answer? On number 2. So the answer would be the 0.10.
So because it's red and tail, you just have to add. Is that what it is?
Well, right, but I want that to make it, it's only going to work on the exam for you if it really makes sense. Right? Think about the cards. Make this as real for yourself as you possibly can. Right? There's 4 red cards. So there's a red 1, a red 2, a red 3, a red 4, right? And we want to get a red card followed by a tail when we flip the coin. Well, there's only 4 ways that can happen, right? Real life. You get the red, you pull out of the deck of cards, you pull the red one, and then you flip the coin and you get a tail. That is one event in life that would satisfy what we want here. We want to get a red card, any red card, followed by a tail. So one way you could fulfill that is to get the red 1 card and a tail when you flip the coin, or a red 2 card and a tail, or a red 3 and a tail, or a red 4 and a tail, right? Wouldn't you agree? There's 4 different events in life that would fulfill this out of 40 different things that can happen.
Okay.
Making sense for everybody? Good questions. Just try to make this as real for you. That's always the best thing in all math. Make it real. Can you picture the 40 cards, right? And I mean, not just 40, there's 20 cards, but there's 40 things that can happen. Like you're watching a movie and there's different endings, some of those weird movies that make different endings, right? That's kind of like what we're talking about with probability. Like, what are the different endings that can happen? Well, you can get a 1 with a head, or a 1 with a tail, or a 2 with a head, or a 2 with the tail, etc. There's 20 different cards. And following that, you can have 2 different things that happen on the coin flip, head or tail. So that means 40 different possible endings, right? And out of those 40 total endings, if what you really want to see in the ending is a red card and a tail, well, there's 4 ways that can happen. The red 1 with a tail, the red 2 with a tail, the red 3 with a tail, the red 4 with a tail. 4 out of the 40 possible endings would satisfy red and a tail. And that comes down to a 10% chance, 0.10 decimal. Making sense? Other questions I can answer?
It makes sense. I'm just a little worried that when I get to the exam, it's going to word it differently. And I'm not